The heavy oak doors of the Anderson mansion opened with a silent, familiar glide. Lucas Anderson, a millionaire at 35, loosened his $2,000 tie. The flight from Tokyo had been brutal, but the deal was done. His company was secure, his future golden. All he wanted was a hot shower and 8 hours of sleep in his ancestral home. The grand foyer was silent, the black and white marble floors gleaming under the crystal chandelier. It was too silent. He expected to hear the distant clatter of a kitchen or the soft hum of a vacuum. He rounded the corner toward the main staircase and froze. The sight before him shattered his reality. It was a tableau of absolute desperation. Evelyn Anderson, his mother, the indomitable matriarch of the Anderson dynasty, a woman who had faced down hostile boards and tabloid vultures without flinching, was on her knees. Her perfectly manicured hands were clasped together, and she was sobbing, her entire body shaking on the cold, unforgiving marble. She was begging, and she was begging their housekeeper, Clara Bennett. Clara, a black woman who had been a quiet, dignified fixture in his life for over 25 years, stood before her. She wasn't angry. She wasn't cruel. She looked resolved. In her hand she held a simple black smartphone. "Please, Clara, please," Evelyn wept, the sound echoing in the cavernous hall. "You can't, I'm begging you. It will destroy us. It will destroy everything." Clara's voice was low, but it cut through Evelyn's hysteria. "With all due respect, Mrs. Anderson, it was already destroyed. You all just built this house on top of the ruins. He has to know." "I'll give you anything," Evelyn cried, lurching forward to grab the hem of Clara's simple uniform. "Money, a house, double what he left you. Just not the video. Please, I'm on my knees. Don't release that video." Lucas's voice was a thunderclap in the silence. "Mother?" Evelyn Anderson froze. Her head snapped toward him, her eyes wide with a terror Lucas had never seen. She scrambled to her feet, wiping at her tear-streaked face, her $10,000 dress now wrinkled from the floor. "Lucas," she gasped, attempting a smile that was a grotesque failure. "You're home early. Clara and I were just discussing a private matter." Lucas's gaze was ice. He ignored his mother and looked directly at Clara, the woman who had packed his lunches for school and always had a kind word. "Clara, what video? Why was my mother on the floor?" Clara Bennett met his eyes. There was no fear in them, only a profound, bone-deep sadness. "Ask her, Mr. Lucas, ask her what your father, Robert Anderson, did. Ask her what she knew about and what she helped him hide." "How dare you!" Evelyn shrieked, her terror instantly replaced by a venomous rage. "You ungrateful, lying. Get out of my house. You are fired." Clara didn't flinch. "You already fired me this morning, ma'am. I was just leaving." She looked down at the phone in her hand, then back at Evelyn. Her voice was final. "You have 24 hours to tell him the truth. If you don't, I will. The world deserves to know what kind of man Robert Anderson really was." She gave Lucas one last, lingering look, one he couldn't decipher, and walked past him, her footsteps echoing as she left the mansion, the heavy doors closing behind her with a dreadful finality. A deafening silence filled the foyer. Lucas stared at the door, his mind racing. He turned to his mother. Evelyn was leaning against a pillar, her chest heaving. "Mother, explain. Now." Evelyn took a shuddering breath. She composed herself, straightening her spine, pulling the mask of the Anderson matriarch back over her face. "That woman is a viper, a manipulative, venomous viper. She's been with us for 25 years, Lucas said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You were begging her. She's trying to blackmail me, Lucas." Evelyn insisted, walking toward him, her hands outstretched. "It's a shakedown, plain and simple. She's delusional. Blackmail you with what? What video? What did she mean what father did?" Evelyn waved her hand dismissively, but her eyes darted nervously. "It's absurd. Your father. He was a powerful man. He had enemies, Clara. She's become unstable. She's fabricated this story. She thinks she has some confession from your father. What story? Lucas pressed. It's vile, Evelyn said, pacing now. She's accusing your father of framing her husband years ago. You remember her husband, David? He worked in your father's accounting department. Lucas frowned.
Vaguely.
What about him? Your father had to let him go, Evelyn said, her voice rising in manufactured indignation. Embezzlement. A significant amount. Robert was merciful, Lucas. He didn't press charges for Clara's sake. To spare her family the public humiliation. And this is how she repays us. By twisting it. By claiming David was the innocent one. By claiming your father, your sainted father, was the one who did it. It's ludicrous. Lucas felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. He was a millionaire because he could read people. He knew when a competitor was bluffing. He knew when a partner was lying. And his mother, for all her performance, was lying. So this video, it's a fake? Of course. A deep fake or just her talking nonsense. She's obsessed, I tell you. She always resented our success. Then why? Lucas said, stepping closer. Did you offer her a house? Why were you on your knees? You don't beg a liar who has no proof. You call the police, Evelyn stammered. I panicked. I was thinking of your father's legacy. The scandal, Lucas. Disgruntled maid accuses dead philanthropist. The press would have a field day. I was just trying to make it go away for the family's sake. The family's sake, Lucas repeated, the words tasting like ash. She gave you 24 hours. She said you had to tell me the truth. What is the truth, Mother? I just told you, Evelyn cried. No, Lucas said, shaking his head. You told me a story. You told me Clara is unstable, but I saw your face when I walked in. That wasn't fear of a liar. That was fear of the truth. Lucas, Evelyn gasped, clutching her pearls, the perfect portrait of an offended aristocrat. How dare you? How dare you take the word of a servant over your own mother? The battle lines were drawn. A son, a mother, and a secret that could tear a dynasty apart. But Lucas Anderson hadn't built an empire by accepting the stories he was told. He stared at his mother, the silence in the grand hall stretching for an eternity. He saw not just his mother, but the protector of the Anderson name. A name built on what? That is my final word, Lucas, Evelyn declared, her voice cold, all traces of the weeping woman on the floor gone. You will drop this. You will stand by your family. You will treat that woman as the delusional extortionist she is. We are Andersons. We do not bow to threats from the staff. She turned, her back rigid, and ascended the grand staircase, leaving Lucas alone in the echoing silence of the foyer. He watched her go, not with anger, but with a chilling clarity. The mother he thought he knew, the strong, principled woman, was a performance. The real woman was the one he saw on her knees, desperate and terrified. And she was terrified of one thing, the truth. He didn't go to his room. He didn't shower. Instead, he walked down the hall to the one room that had always been the center of the Anderson world, his father's study. The room was a shrine to Robert Anderson. Dark mahogany walls, leather-bound books, a faint, lingering scent of expensive cigar smoke and old money. A massive portrait of his father hung over the fireplace, an oil painting depicting him as a titan of industry, benevolent and powerful. Lucas stared at it. What did you do, Father? He whispered to the empty room. His mother's story was full of holes. If Clara was unstable, why had she been kept on for 25 years? If the video was a deep fake, and why was his mother so desperate to stop its release? And why did the name David Bennett spark a cold forgotten memory in the back of his mind? He sat in his father's oversized leather chair, the one he'd been forbidden to touch as a child. He tried to think, to piece it together. He closed his eyes, and the scene in the foyer replayed in his mind. Evelyn's sobs. Clara's resolute stance. You have 24 hours to tell him the truth. But that wasn't how it began. The narrative flashed back, not days, but mere hours. To that very morning, Evelyn Anderson was in the solarium, sipping her morning tea when Clara entered, not with a duster, but with that same black smartphone in her hand. "Ma'am," Clara said, her voice steady. "We need to talk." "Clara, I'm busy," Evelyn said, not looking up from the Wall Street Journal. "It's about Robert, and my husband, David." The paper rustled. Evelyn slowly lowered it, her eyes narrow. "What about him?" "He's been dead for 24 years, Clara said, her voice trembling but gaining strength. "He killed himself, as you'll recall. He couldn't bear the shame of being called a thief, of losing his reputation, his life, all for a crime he didn't commit. That is a disgusting old allegation, Clara. Your husband was a troubled man. My husband was generous not to prosecute." "He was generous," Clara agreed out to himself. "He let you keep all this." She motioned around the opulent room. "My husband was just the scapegoat." Evelyn stood up, her face pale. "You are treading on dangerous ground." "I have proof," Clara said simply, holding up the phone. "I've had it for a week, Robert. He called me before he died, when the cancer had eaten away everything but the guilt. He wanted to confess. To God, he said. And to me." She pressed a button. A video began to play. It was Robert Anderson, not the titan in the portrait, but a skeletal, dying man in a sterile hospital bed, an oxygen tube in his nose. His voice was a rasping whisper, but the words were horrifyingly clear. "I did it," the voice on the video wheezed. "The embezzlement, it was me. The company was about to go under. I created a shell corporation, siphoned 10 million. But the audit, they were getting close. It was either me or David. He was so young. He trusted me." Evelyn lunged for the phone, but Clara pulled it back. "You knew," Clara whispered, her eyes filling with tears. He told me you knew everything. You helped him. You covered it up. He did it for us." Evelyn shrieked, her composure shattering. "He did it for this family. For Lucas. What good would it have done for us all to go to prison? For this legacy to be destroyed? What about my legacy?" Clara's voice rose, filled with the pain of 2.5 decades. "What about my husband's name? I have lived in the house of the man who murdered my husband for 25 years. I have washed your floors, served your dinners, and watched you wear the jewels his theft paid for, all while knowing you were lying." "What do you want?" Evelyn whispered, sinking into a chair. "Money? You want money? I'll give it to you." "I want the truth," Clara said, her face a mask of iron. "I don't want your blood money. I want my husband's name cleared. You are going to tell Lucas, you are going to tell him what his sainted father really was, and you're going to tell the world." No, I can't," Evelyn sobbed. "It will destroy him. It will destroy us. It's already destroyed," Clara said. "You just haven't admitted it. You have until the family dinner tonight. Tell him, tell everyone, or I will send this video to every news outlet on the planet." It was then that the first sob tore from Evelyn's throat. It was then she fell to her knees, just as the front door began to open. Lucas's eyes snapped open in the study. He wasn't breathing. He was frozen. His father, his sainted philanthropist father, was a thief. A man who framed an innocent employee, driving him to suicide. And his mother was an accomplice. Clara wasn't unstable. She was a victim, seeking the only justice she had left. He looked at the grand, mocking portrait of Robert Anderson. The benevolent smile was now a cruel, deceitful smirk. The entire foundation of his life, his name, his inheritance, his company, was built on the grave of an innocent man. He looked at the clock on the mahogany desk. It was 6:05 p.m. The Anderson family's annual foundation dinner was in less than 2 hours. In this very house, Clara's ultimatum wasn't for 24 hours. It was for tonight. A cold, terrible certainty settled over Lucas Anderson. He looked at the clock, 6:05 p.m. The guests, the investors, the board members of his father's foundation would be arriving in less than an hour. They were coming to celebrate a lie. He rose from the leather chair, his movements stiff, robotic. He walked out of the study and found his mother in the grand hall. She was already dressed for the evening. A vision in emerald green silk, a diamond necklace glittering at her throat. She was sipping a martini, the picture of calm control. The weeping woman on the floor was gone. "The preparations are perfect," she said without looking at him, inspecting a floral arrangement. "We'll announce the new hospital wing tonight. Your father would be so proud." "He killed David Bennett," Lucas stated. The words were dead flat. Evelyn's hand tightened on her glass. "We are not doing this now, Lucas. The guests are arriving." He framed him. He stole $10 million. He drove an innocent man to suicide. Lucas stepped in front of her, forcing her to look at him. "And you knew. You knew. Stop it," she hissed, her eyes darting toward the front door, terrified a guest might overhear. "You're hysterical. You're believing the fantasy of a bitter, fired servant." "I saw the video this morning, Mother," Lucas lied. He watched her face. The blood drained from it. The martini glass shook in her hand. The one from the solarium. Evelyn's composure shattered. "She showed you? That bitch?" No," Lucas said, his voice like ice. "She didn't show me. But you just told me everything I needed to know. You confirmed it's real." Evelyn's face contorted with rage and panic. You treacherous boy. After everything I've done for you. Everything he did for you. This family, this empire was built to protect you. It was built on a grave," Lucas said. "And you're going to tell them tonight, at the dinner. You are going to clear David Bennett's name. You're going to tell the truth." "Never." Evelyn's voice was a venomous whisper. "I will never destroy your father's legacy. I will never let that woman win. If you try to ruin this, you will be ruining yourself. You are the CEO, Lucas. You benefited just as much as I did. You are complicit." The doorbell chimed. The first guests were here. Evelyn's face instantly transformed. She smiled, a warm, dazzling smile, as she turned to greet the arriving senator. "Senator, how wonderful to see you." Lucas stood frozen, watching his mother laugh and accept the compliment on her dress. He was watching a monster, a charming, beautiful, smiling monster, and she was right about one thing. He was complicit. His entire life was a product of the crime. The next hour was a blur. The grand dining hall filled with the city's elite. Laughter, the clinking of champagne glasses, the soft murmur of polite, powerful conversation. Lucas moved through the room like a ghost. He saw the board members, the politicians, the socialites, all of them praising the legacy of Robert Anderson. Evelyn took her place at the head of the long, banquet-laden table. She tapped her glass with a spoon. A hush fell. "Welcome, welcome," she beamed, her diamonds flashing. "It fills my heart with such joy to see you all here, celebrating the legacy of my dear, sainted husband, Robert. A man whose generosity, whose integrity—" His integrity was a lie. The voice cut through the room like a shard of glass. Every head snapped to the grand entrance of the dining hall. Clara Bennett stood there. She was not in her uniform. She wore a simple, dignified black dress. Her head was held high, her face a mask of iron resolve. Evelyn sprang to her feet. "Security! Security! Get this woman out of my house immediately!" Two security guards moved toward Clara, but she held up her hand, and in it, her smartphone. "I wouldn't," she said, her voice clear and carrying. "I'm not here to cause a scene, Mrs. Anderson. I'm here to finish one." "She's a disgruntled ex-employee," Evelyn shouted to the bewildered guests. "She's insane. She's trying to extort us." "Am I?" Clara said. She walked past the guards, who hesitated, unsure. She walked toward the large projector screen at the end of the room, the one used for the Foundation's presentations. "You had your chance, Evelyn. You had until dinner. You chose to tell more lies. You chose to toast the man who murdered my husband." "It's not true," Evelyn shrieked. "Then you won't mind if I show this," Clara said. With a few taps, she connected her phone to the room's wireless projector. And suddenly the face of Robert Anderson filled the screen. It was not the man in the portrait. It was a skeletal, dying invalid, his eyes hollow with terror and guilt. The room gasped. Then he spoke. The wheezing, rasping confession echoed through the silent dining hall. I did it. The embezzlement. It was me. He told them everything. The 10 million. The Shell Corporation. The audit. And the frame-up. David Bennett. He trusted me. I put it all on him. I ruined him. He was a good man, Evelyn. Evelyn knew. She helped me hide the accounts. I'm so sorry, Clara. I'm so sorry. The video ended. Absolute deafening silence. The senator's mouth was open. A woman fainted. Evelyn Anderson was hyperventilating, her face a mask of purple rage. Lies, a deepfake. It's edited. It's slander. She's a mother. Lucas's voice, cold and final, cut her off. He stood up from the table. Every eye was on him. Stop talking. He looked at his mother, the woman who had just lied to his face, who had been willing to let this go on forever. Then he looked at Clara, who was watching him, her expression not triumphant but waiting. Just then a commotion erupted at the front of the house. Flashes of light, shouting, Channel 4 News. Daily Mail. Mrs. Anderson, is it true your husband was a thief? The reporters, alerted by Clara, burst past the overwhelmed security flooding the dining room. It's a lie, Evelyn screamed at them. A doctored video. That's not the full footage. It's been manipulated. A reporter shoved a microphone in Lucas's face. Mr. Anderson, your mother claims the video is fake. What is your comment? Lucas looked at the camera. He looked at his mother. He looked at Clara. He saw his entire life, the lie he had been living. He had a choice. Lie and save the company, or tell the truth and save his soul. He pulled out his own smartphone. Clara, anticipating this, had sent him the file an hour ago. My mother is right about one thing, Lucas said, his voice booming over the chaos. That wasn't the full video. Evelyn's face flooded with relief. This is, Lucas said. He hit upload on the unedited 20-minute-long confession. To my personal Twitter feed. And to the server of every news outlet in this room. The truth. The whole truth. My father, Robert Anderson, was a thief and a fraud. And my mother, Evelyn Anderson, was his accomplice. Evelyn let out a sound. A long primal scream. And as CEO of his company, Lucas continued, so was I. Officers, he said, nodding to the police who had just arrived behind the reporters. I believe you're here for us. The flashbulbs were a blinding, continuous storm. The shouts of the reporters were deafening. Evelyn Anderson stood frozen, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred, all of it directed at her son. You have destroyed me, she hissed, her voice a venomous rattle that cut through the chaos. No, Mother, Lucas said, his own voice sounding distant, hollow. Father destroyed us. We just kept his secret. The police officer. When Lucas took the stand, he did not look at his mother. He looked at the jury and he looked at Clara, who sat in the front row every single day clutching a small, worn photo of her late husband. My mother knew from the beginning, Lucas stated, his voice steady, echoing in the hushed courtroom. She was not a victim. She was a partner. She helped him create the narrative that David Bennett was a thief. She helped him plant the evidence. She lived a life of luxury, knowing it was bought with the blood of an innocent man. And I was the CEO. I ran the company built on that lie. When I found out, I could have hidden it. Like her, but the truth is all that matters. It's the only thing left. Clara Bennett was the final witness. She didn't speak of revenge. She spoke of her husband. David was a good man, she said, her voice quiet but strong. He loved his job. He trusted Robert Anderson. When Mr. Anderson accused him, it broke him. He couldn't live with the shame. He took his own life, believing the world saw him as a thief. For 25 years I have lived with that. All I ever wanted was for the world to know his name. David Bennett. He was an innocent man. The verdict came back in under an hour. The judge looked down at the defendants. Clara Bennett and the estate of David Bennett are formally and publicly exonerated of all suspicion. His name is cleared. A single sharp sob broke from Clara. Evelyn Anderson, the judge continued, his voice stern, for your role in the conspiracy, the cover-up and your perjury on the stand, you are sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. Evelyn collapsed into her chair, the facade finally gone, a dry, rasping sound escaping her throat. Lucas Anderson, your confession was complete and immediate. You provided the evidence that brought this to light. However, you were the beneficiary and, by your own admission, complicit in the cover-up, however brief. For concealment of a felony, you are also sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. As they were led out, Lucas paused as he passed Clara. He stopped. Clara, I am sorry. Clara looked up at him, her eyes red but her spine straight. He knows, Mr. Lucas. David knows. You did the right thing. In the end, you did. That, Lucas thought as the door closed, was the only acquittal he needed. 2 years passed. Prison was a crucible. It burned away the millionaire, the CEO, the Anderson. Lucas read. He worked. He thought. He received no visitors. His mother, in a separate facility, refused to see him. He was released on a gray Tuesday, a man with no money, no home, and a name that was a curse. He walked out of the prison gates with a single cardboard box of books. A simple black car was waiting. The window rolled down. It was Clara. She looked older, but her eyes were peaceful. You need a job, Mr. Anderson? 5 years later, the sun shone brightly on a new glass building in the center of the city. The name on the building was not Anderson. It was the Bennett Anderson Institute for Truth and Reconciliation. The institute was a non-profit, funded by the liquidated assets of the Anderson estate. Every dollar that Lucas had inherited, he had turned over to Clara. It was now dedicated to helping the families of the wrongfully convicted. Clara Bennett was the president. Lucas Anderson was the director of operations. On this day, they stood on a podium at the grand opening. The crowd was small but supportive. The truth, Clara said, her voice amplified by the microphone, is a heavy thing. It can be buried. It can be hidden. But it will always, always find its way to the light. This institute is not about a crime. It's about the restoration that comes after. It's about building something new on a foundation of honesty. She turned and smiled at Lucas. He smiled back. A genuine smile, one he hadn't worn in a decade. A third figure, frail and in a simple gray dress, stood beside them, slightly in the back. It was Evelyn. She had served her time. She had emerged a broken, quiet woman. She had nowhere else to go. Clara, in a final act of grace, had offered her a volunteer position in the mailroom. The three of them, the victim, the accomplice, and the redeemer, stood together. The past was not forgotten, but it was finally over. Lucas looked out at the new building, a symbol that the deepest, darkest secrets cannot survive the light. The debt was paid. Justice, in its slow, grinding, and absolute way, had finally been served. The cost of a lie is high, but the price of truth is liberation. What we just saw is a reminder that no secret stays hidden forever, and that true redemption isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about how you build yourself back up from the ashes of the truth. Before you go, if you were moved by this story of justice, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that reveal the truth, no matter the cost.